Okay, something. This is the. Sorry about the inconvenience. I try to run through this slideshow now. So, so I start this process of socializations in the space of business and economy, underpinning the SNA, stands for the social network analysis during this COVID-19. Uh, while talking about this, the, the abstract, these are some of these key points of these abstracts, which primarily talks about that how we are going to navigate, how we're going to use this space in this COVID-19 era, which obviously has a genesis. If you go through the entire history of the pandemic, from the Spanish flu in 1918 till today, long time, and you have the entire 100 years is replete with multiple human experiences. So what I primarily try to do with this discourse is try to find out how the government and the various regulators and the law enforcement agencies are likely to intervene in terms of putting their rules with regard to social distancing, lockdown norms, and the mask wearing. And these I tried to link up with the Edward Hall's discourse on the proxemic behavior. He wrote a very interesting book in 1966 on which is called The Hidden Dimension, which primarily went into delving into exploring the physical space, which can further explain our process of socializations. In this process, in this era of pandemic, and this in the context of the business and economy, I particularly would like this current discussion to focus on. Now, that would mean that I would like to see that how the social structure certain social structure is getting reestablished, and then how the new arrangements are coming into place, and how it also will have a bearing on the human interactions or certain behavioral changes that finally would engender new roles, functions, meanings, and purposes to structurally related social groups. Now, this I wanted to, I don't want to complicate this further, but this is extremely important why we talk about all this. It has to be situated under a discourse called the social network analysis. Now, social network analysis has a long history, as we all know, and then I would certainly like to discuss more on that. But I particularly would like to say, when you talk about the social networking, the social networking analysis, I particularly would like to say that this is actually a process of investigating certain social structures, and the way we use this network in this and the graph theory, and how it sort of characterizes the structures in terms of the nodes. These nodes could be individual actors, could be things within the network, could be the people. And also, if you look at the graphical representation of a social network or a network, it is all about ties, links, and the edges. These we try to denote this in the form of certain relationship and interactions. So the second part of the abstract largely I'd like to ignore, but this particularly would like to deliberate on creating a series of modeling and visualizations of these networks under this social networking analysis discourse. And this would have many tenets. I'm sorry, I would rather call the facets. That, for instance, you like to know that how a certain emergent properties might come into the picture, which means that how the group members operate in an environment, forming more complex behaviors by co-opting certain tasks and processes of socializations with others as a collective, allowing the emergence to happen on disparate size scales, underpinning a causal relations across different scales. So we really can go on from talking about anything from a collaborating learning spaces, because the whole world has now moved online into online teaching, to something like exploring the Carl Jung's model of personality type, how this would be in this era of pandemic.
Sarat, just a quick remark. I don't have your slides anymore now.
Okay, just a sec. Do you, hold on, I would try to get this.
Well, but don't have the slides.
Okay, right. I'm just trying to get this slide back.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure that you have got it back.
All right now.
Yeah, you have my slides. Yeah, sure. So while talking, I guess, while talking about this process of socializations and that how do we share these spaces, and I like to link this to the Edward Hall's theory of proxemics. And here is a graph of how these proxemics looks like. This graph, if you see, there are spaces distributed across different ways that certain individuals interact, starting from the intimate space to a personal space, going all the way up to a social space to a public space. And Hall has given us very precise measurement that how the distance is maintained in each of these zones. So ideally, if you see this going up, you really can count it. It's about 5 zones, or right, rather 4 zones. The interesting point is that I would like to know that how someone navigates from one zone to the other, what happens when one zone interacts with the other, or what happens at those points where one zone converges on the other or overlaps. So that is something very interesting thing to look at in this point of pandemic. And here are some of these pandemic rules that underpins these hidden dimensions, which all explores. And if you see that, here we talk about that in the context of the business and commerce, you would find that in certain urban centers have certain ways of enforcing the social distancing rules, or even the mask wearing rules, compared to other urban clusters. And I would argue that this is due to the not something that they thought about, or it just not just